How's it going, everybody? CJ here, back in another video. This is not a first thoughts this time. This is something really cool. We got a preview card. We've got a legendary creature from Witherbloom here. It's 5 mana. It's a 2/5, and boy, does it have a good ability. But before I spoil it, remember, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Like this video. Comment down below what you think about Petel, which is the name of the commander. What you're gonna do with this commander? And yeah, we got the Twitch, we got the Twitter down below as well, and we got the Discord if you want to chat in the Discord. That's also down below. But now for the spoiling, we got Petel Vastland Rejuvenator, and it is a human druid legendary creature with very powerful ability. When it enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices all lands they control, then returns that many land cards from their graveyard to the battlefield tapped. That seems so good. And it's got a second ability being you can pay a black and a green, exile target land card from a graveyard. Each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. This card's cool. This card seems very powerful. Like, you can pull off a lot of crazy things with that enters the battlefield ability. Especially like landfall triggers. Like, even if you play this on turn 5, that's 5 landfall triggers right there, and that's if none of your lands are fetches or anything like that. So that's scary. Some of the landfall cards I want to talk about that would work really well in this deck. You've got Rampaging Ballots, just to make a billion tokens. You've got Lotus Cobra, which basically turns Petel into a ritual of sorts. Like, it makes it free almost to cast. You got Avenger Zendikar, so that way you can make a ton of tokens. And like, if you play Petel after Avenger Zendikar, like on turn 8 or whatever, turn 7 you play Avenger for 7 mana. That's being no ramp or anything. So the turn you play Avenger, you get 7 tokens. Next turn you play Petel, sacrifice 7 lands, put 7 lands back into play. All your tokens are now 7/8 and swing in for a ton of damage. That's terrifying. You got Scoot Swarm, so you can make a bunch of tokens. Like, if you play Scoot Swarm and then this app and have 6 lands come back in, then oh my goodness, you're making a lot of Scoot Swarms. Yeah, Ob Nixilis the Fallen, just to deal a ton of damage across the board. Like, that's gonna be a game-winning card, especially if you can do it a couple times, like twice, 3 times with Ob Nixilis in play. If you can do Petel's trigger a couple times, you're gonna win the game there. And Tireless Tracker, you can make a ton of clue tokens and just have a good card draw outlet there. You're going to be making a lot of mana in this deck through a ton of ramp because it is a lands-based deck. This is going to be a lands deck, like Gitrog Monster-esque deck. Also, Gitrog Monster, good in this deck. So you're going to be having a lot of mana around. You'll be able to activate Petel a lot, so that way you can exile, you can drain your opponents and gain a ton of life. It's going to be good. But that first trigger is definitely the big part. So, ways to capitalize on this, because you can't put, this is not going to be able to be a real Blink deck because there's no blue in it, there's no white in it. It's going to be like Golgari Blink. So, best ways to capitalize on that ETB is stuff like Panharmonicon, Lithoform Engine, and Strixhaven Resonator, so you can copy the trigger. That seems very powerful. You got Conjurer's Closet, so you can bounce it at the end of each of your turns. Seems good. And I think instead of blinking, you can do the Golgari Blink, being sacrificing and reanimating. So using Reanimate, Necromancy, Animate Dead, along with sack outlets like Ashnod's Altar, Phyrexian Altar, Altar of Dementia. That seems great. That seems like a great way to just keep it bouncing in and out of the graveyard, so that way you can get the ETB trigger as much as possible. Next up, I want to talk about some cards that just work very well with all these lands going into graveyard. You got Ramanop Excavator, Crucible of Worlds, Ancient Green Warden, which also doubles all the landfall triggers, or all the triggers that involve your lands entering, which is going to be huge. You got World Shaper, which you can sacrifice to get all the lands out of your graveyard into play, which is very powerful. Plus, it helps you mill into your graveyard, put lands in your graveyard. You got Life from the Loam, another way to get lands out of your graveyard while also putting lands in your graveyard by dredging. There's ramp cards that help to fill your graveyard with lands, being Harrow, Springbloom Druid, Roiling Regrowth, and not really ramp or crop rotation. All those seem like great includes in the deck. You got a lot of lands that are going to be entering a graveyard, so you can capitalize on that with Titania, Protector of Argoth, and Turn Timber Sower. Both these will create a lot of tokens as lands enter your graveyard, especially when Petel enters the battlefield. That's going to be a huge trigger for both of these. You got all of your additional lands, playing additional land for turn cards like Azusa, Oracle, Moldaya, Exploration, Dryad of the Elysian Grove. All those seem great. You can throw in Corsair Crewfix just so you can get the extra life and be able to play lands off top of your library, which is always nice. Scape Shift, great card in this deck. It's almost like a second Petel, except it pulls lands out of your deck and you get to choose those lands, so that's a huge bonus. Seems like a great card in the deck. And some lands that seem like they would be very good in this deck. You got Dakmor Salvage. It's got Dredge on it, so you sack it, it stays in your graveyard. You then dredge it back, and you get to do the dredge stuff. You got Bajuka Bog, so you can get the extra enters the battlefield triggers. Strip Mine and Wasteland seem pretty good because you can continuously get lands in your opponent's graveyard, so you can exile them with Petel's trigger, or not trigger, but ability. You got Drownyard Temple, which is a land that comes out of your graveyard. Just 3 mana, it comes back, so that seems like it's worthwhile. Field of the Dead, you're going to be running a lot of different utility lands, a lot of different land names. This card is going to be busted. And especially when you bring it back from your graveyard on a Petel trigger and just get a ton of zombies, like all hitting the board at once. That's going to be gross. You can even run a snow-covered snow-covered forest and snow-covered swamp just so you get the extra name difference into the deck while still having enough basics. Thespian Stage seems pretty good. I mean, you just copy anything you need. Throw in Dark Depths, you got that combo. Seems good. You got Cabal Coffers Urborg combo. Just make a ton of mana. That's always nice to have. And you can funnel some of that extra mana into Petel's second ability, so that way you can drain your opponent's life totals. And you can also fill your graveyard with stuff like Mesmeric Orbs. That way you can just get more stuff in your graveyard. Like, it's going to be definitely a graveyard-centric deck. Oh, and Gitrog Monster is just going to be really gross with this. I just realized how good that actually is. Gitrog Monster is going to be nice in this deck because of the sacrificing ability. The whenever one or more land cards put into your graveyard from anywhere, draw a card. So you get to play Gitrog, play Petel, Gitrog, or sacrifice all your lands, draw a card for each one of them, bring all the lands back into play, get all your landfall triggers. This deck's going to be nuts. Like, this commander is going to be played after you set up, and then once you do, it's like its own combo that just gives you a huge board state. I like it a lot. This is going to be super, super cool commander. And you can also throw Dingus Egg in this deck, because that way you can deal damage to all your opponents when their lands are sacrificed, which is a fun time, because, you know, I like my Dingus Egg. And yeah, that is what I have for Petel Vastland Rejuvenator. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and happy April Fool's Day.